What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Chumbawamba. Once again, big shout out to Chafic, who provided one of their tunes that I reacted to as a lucky dip, and also to Hummperdink. Am I saying that correctly? I mean, obviously Hummperdink is a name with cultural relevance, but I don't remember a specific regular given name, if you will. So either way, I'm going to say that for now. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they sent me a large, I think like basically the full catalog. Now I have to say, I downloaded the entire like set of folders, and there were a number of albums and like singles and so on where like in the folder was only a JPEG, like only an image. Now other folders have tracks, and then there's some folders which have like tracks 1 and 3 but not 2. There's a single folder that I looked at just now that had that. So yeah, I don't know if it was something in the ripping of them, or maybe it was like when I downloaded them, it didn't download them completely. The point is, it's seemingly their whole catalog, but not all of their whole catalog is in this rip that I got. So bottom line, the first album, which has the incredible name Pictures of Starving Children Sell Records, which I can just get a sense already of the like social commentary that will surely be on offer. More on that in a moment. But yes, the main, or the first proper album in that big bundle that I downloaded from Hummperdink, there were no tracks in there. So I went poking around online and I was able to find a copy of that first album. So that's where we're going to start. And again, there's like CDs and compilations and so on. So at least some of that is in there in this big umbrella download that I did. So bottom line, at some point we'll make sure that everything can be gone through. Obviously this is going to take a while. They do seem to have a large catalog, so if people are in for the long haul, welcome, and we'll be doing this for a while. But yes, I noticed that the opening track on the debut album is a prologue, so I queued that up, and what I think is the first proper song, which is Whitewashing again. And you know, whitewashing, like, I'm a historian, I have my degrees in history, and for my thesis, for my master's thesis, I focused on indigenous American history, specifically as it relates to the Muskogee, sometimes called the Creek peoples. And, you know, the idea that here in the U.S. and in terms of, you know, public school history and so on, that we are brought up, at least I was brought up, with a sort of whitewashed, sanitized version of history that is very much something that I am familiar with, and which, you know, as you get to higher education, you do start to understand the degree to which that is true and look at a more transparent or a more balanced historical study. And of course, history, the study of history, we are limited by the historical record, what we have in terms of written documents and the archaeological record, and so it's not like looking through a window into the past. It is taking accounts, primary and secondary, and trying to understand what happened and make arguments about what happened. And you know, people disagree, and sometimes a consensus emerge, and even then that might not be, you know, exactly what happened. Nevertheless, the point is, the idea of whitewashing, the idea of like making something seem less exploitative or brutal or offensive or violent than it actually was, is very much something that happens not just in the US, of course, but in the UK and across the world. So yeah, the concept of whitewashing in that regard is very much something that I'm familiar with in my own professional endeavors. In any case, let's listen. This is Chumbawamba. It's the first 2 tracks, and I think, you know, the introduction and the first proper song from their opening album, Pictures of Starving Children Sell Records. Just a remarkable debut album name. I believe it's 1986. Am I right here? Let me see if that's right. Yes. Oh, no, sorry. It looks like it's No, it is 1986. So this is Prologue, followed by more Whitewashing.
I'm the boss of the company, and I've got hunger working for me. Listen, and you begin to understand. I build my profits on stolen land. It's the economics of supply and demand, and I make the demands around here.
There's an implied story happening there.
Smiling workers in Ladybird Books, they're not picking coffee at all. They're busy with bricks and mortar, building the company wall. Those tiny news presenters, they're not reading cue card at all. They're busy with brush and bucket, whitewashing the company wall.
The drumming here is
And if
insane.
you send a little money, you can sleep tonight. Or starving simply on a limits diet. And you know that charity cures malnutrition. And hung up on the sparkle back in television. 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 Hung up on the sparkle back in television.
Yo, it was told to me that, despite their big hit, which I think is actually more social or even political commentary than what people understood it as, which is like, a drinking song. But people told me that, they have a very, sort of conscious and incisive catalog of music. And like on this first reaction or first like proper reaction after the Lucky Dip, I get a sense of that like immensely. And it's more like punk rock, mostly in kind of the ethos and the ideas that I heard, and I didn't hear everything clearly, but I heard a lot about, burying the poor and the reasons that people die and, sort of going along with public or people's lies that are convenient and comfortable, but which, don't rock the boat or get at the actual reality of the matter. But yes, even in the sonics, in those faster, like frenetic parts, there's a bit of a punk rock attitude there. So yeah, definitely a group that I think I'm going to be very interested in, like, even beyond, because again, this was told to me to some extent, but I'm still surprised by what I just heard. And if you can see all the punk rock behind me and some of the bands specifically, you might not be surprised to learn this seems like it's going to be right up my alley. So definitely looking forward to this journey. Again, I'll have to figure out like which folders like just show a JPEG and not any actual songs. Again, there are some folders which have songs, though even then, some of them don't seem to have all the songs. So, like I said, I was able to get a full copy of this opening album. So for the next several months, we'll be able to go through that, and then ultimately, we'll make sure we have everything. Thank you again to Chafic for starting this, as well as the Hummperdink for providing a great deal of music, whatever the issue with the download. So, from the slumbering Luca and I, let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Peace.